Okay, so, just to recap saying this really quickly, it's 6 a.m. as of right now, and this is 2 days after Christmas, and I wanted to recount all of the games I own, because it's been about 2 years now, and all of the games are on my floor. Sorry if this is kind of rushed. I actually was trying to show off the Super Famicom games, and then I accidentally showed something that was very private, this game, so I'm gonna make sure not to mess it up again. But just to briefly show, this is all the games that are on my floor, because I had to take all of them out and I had to count all of them, and it's taken me several hours to do this, but I was able to finally count all of them. And I might be a few short, but it doesn't really matter. And yeah, it just keeps going. And then there's some more games right here. But anyway, I wanted to start off with this video being a multi-part video, because there's just too many games to show off. And the first one I wanted to start with Super Famicom, but I accidentally showed something that was on the back of this personal stuff. I forgot to take the sticker off. But anyway, let me just, I guess I'll show those off later, because I showed the boxes first. So let me just show the cartridges. So the first one I showed was Panic Bomber, which I said that this also came out. They also ported this on Virtual Boy. Just wanted to mention that. And then I mentioned with Super Metroid, it's the only Japanese game I have that also can be played in English. And then I turn it around. I'm not going to do that again. And I don't think the other games are like that. This is the Goemon series, and this is the first one. They did release this as Mystical Ninja, but you would know, but they actually released not 2, not 3, but 4 Mystical Ninja games on Super Famicom. And then, of course, I have Rockman 7, Rockman 3, Rockman 2, and then, of course, Rockman 1. You might think, why did I get these? It's mainly because they're a lot cheaper. I want to be able to physically own them. And, like, if some of you would know, getting the American version for this is like 150. This is like over 200. This is over 200. But at the time I bought all these three, it only cost me like $70 max. What other games are there? Mystical Ninja. Well, the Goemon 3. They made a lot of Goemon games, but a lot of them were never released in America. Super Potoden 2. This is actually my first Super Famicom game. I've had this for several years. And there is Panel de Pone, which for the American version that people are more familiar with is Tetris Attack. And there's also Goemon 4. There's also, wait a minute. Oh, that was Mystical Ninja 2. This is Mystical Ninja 3. Whoops. What are other games? Also, Kirby's Dream Land 3. This did come out in America, as well as several of these other games, but it was cheaper getting this one. Like, the American version now costs almost $100, while this only costs $35, but it wasn't in the most perfect condition. You can kind of see that the sticker is a little messed up, but that's fine. I also have a lot of Shin Megami games because they were only localized in Japan, like Majin Tensei and Majin Tensei 2. These games are Essentially, it's kind of like Shin Megami Tensei Tactics. It's like Fire Emblem, but Shin Megami. It's also Mystery of the Emblem, which is a remake of the first Fire Emblem, which I find to be very bizarre, considering that Mystery of the Emblem is the third Fire Emblem game. And what's even weirder is that Shadow Dragon on the DS is also a remake of Fire Emblem 1. So they made two remakes. However, this game is an original, Genealogy of the Holy Wars. Just like with most of these games, I haven't really played them yet, but I said this before, when it comes to playing Japanese RPG games, I will only really play ones that aren't very complicated to play in terms of story. Like the Fire Emblem games won't be a problem, but games like Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2, I don't think I'll ever be able to play. Kirby's Dream Course. Some of these games aren't even really that expensive, but just trying to save money. This one's actually pretty fun. I played some of this. Mario Picross. To my knowledge, this was never released in America. However, I think Mario Picross on Game Boy was localized. There's also Ys 3. After playing Ys Origin, I really want to check out more of the Ys series. Super Adventure Island, which I did play the American version when I was a kid, and I'm happy to see that this is the same version. Kirby Superstar, again, same thing. This was very cheap compared to the American version. Mega Man Soccer, again, much cheaper. Oh, and this game I actually got recently. Rockman and Forte. Although I've been familiar with the GBA one that I've had for a very, very long time, I've always wanted to own the original Japanese version, which came out in 1998, which is just crazy to see a Super Nintendo game that old. Not old, but that far into its lifespan. But considering the fact that I think Tharsia 776, which is a Fire Emblem game, that I think came out like in 1999 or 2000. Okay, let me pause it for a second. Okay, just wanted to move the games to show off what I showed off last time, but then the thing on the back of the Super Metroid game showed something I contemplated. But here are some of my boxes of the Super Famicom games I have. I don't know why I wanted to get the box for some of these. I would say that this was just a face that I had, so these are much older. But this Shin Megami Tensei 2. Again, I don't think I'll ever beat these games just because the decision making and because it's more cryptic in terms of where you have to go next. I don't know, I've already played Dragon Quest 2, Dragon Quest 3, Final Fantasy 2. Those games were definitely a handful to play, Japanese. There is Dragon Quest 6. How do I say that? Seiken Densetsu 3. Oh, I got a Yu Yu Hakusho. They made several of these games on Super Famicom. The Puyo Puyo. Love this series. They made a lot of Puyo Puyo games, but a lot of them didn't really come out in the beginning. Kind of similar to the Shin Megami games. There is also Shin Megami Tensei If, which came out also on PS1. I kind of like this image. It's really creepy. I really want to play this. If I really had to, I would have to play an English fan-made translation. Dragon Quest 5. Sorry if it's not the best quality. I don't want these videos to go on forever. And Wagyan's Paradise. Said this before, this is the fourth game. I don't think any of them ever came out in Japan. They made multiple ones on Super Famicom and Famicom, which is Japanese NES. And my only problem is that it's really fun to play, but there's like these quiz sections, and of course they're all in Japanese, and it's kind of annoying, but... Alright, so there's one that I wanted to show. I don't think I ever... Actually, no, I did make a video on this. I think it's still up. But I actually like the Sailor Moon series. However, I've only read the manga series, and I've never watched the anime, so my knowledge is only from the manga. But, believe it or not, and I have proof, of course, they made plenty of Sailor Moon games. Because the last one they ever made was on the DS over a decade ago. Wait a second. Alright, yeah, it's a very inconvenient, annoying time to record. Even though it's 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm having to deal with two of the most inconvenient things. But anyway, what I was trying to mention was Sailor Moon. Okay, but basically they made a lot of Sailor Moon games, specifically for the Super Famicom. And I have most of them. There's still 2 more that I don't have, one of which is really expensive, while the other one I almost got, but it was already sold out, so that kind of sucks. And to my knowledge, I think I don't really have most of them. They also made them on Genesis. Let me show off the games now, because I'm kind of dragging this on. But here's one of them. I'm not even going to bother saying what it says, but they made a variety of different type of genres for the Sailor Moon games. This is actually a beat 'em up, and this is the sequel to that game. It's also a beat 'em up, and they also made a lot of Sailor Moon puzzle games. That seems to be the one I see the most. That's a puzzle game, and this is also a puzzle game, and this is also a puzzle game. This one I don't really remember. Yeah, I can't remember, like... I'm actually kind of forgetting which games, because it's been a while. Because I know one of them is a fighting game, and this one is the only one that I actually have the box for it. This game kind of makes me think of The Adventures of Lolo on NES, where it's pretty much like an action puzzle game. You can kind of see it. So that's pretty cool. And that's pretty much all the Super Famicom games I have. So I will move over to the next batch of Japanese games for this video. Okay, next up I'm going to show the Famicom games. I don't really have that many Famicom games, just because, as you saw before, I have a lot of Super Famicom, just because I guess when it comes to Famicom, there's just as many Japanese exclusive games. But the problem is, I'm not as fond over the NES as I do with the SNES. But I still like the SNES, it's just, I'm just not as interested. Anyway, this is Final Fantasy 1, the Japanese version. I already have the American version, but it was just that I got Final Fantasy 2 and 3 on Japanese, which are these two. This is Final Fantasy 2. I actually beat this on this cartridge, and it wasn't that stressful, but it's kind of annoying. And this one I haven't played yet, Final Fantasy 3. I don't know why the cartridges are white. There are different colored cartridges for Famicom, like green, blue. The common one is black, but there also are, of course, white. And I got all of these 3. And there's also the Dragon Quest games, which they all also... These games did come out in America, but they were way cheaper. I think I got all these games for like $12 for all 3 of them, and just getting the 4th one alone is like over $100. And I still haven't played the 4th one yet, but I have beaten 2 and 3 on here. And 2 is very stressful, and even for the American version, even with saves, even if you use emulation, I don't recommend it. However, Dragon Quest III I actually did like. It was a massive improvement over the second one, and I am excited for the remake of Dragon Quest III. And then there is one of the most stressful games I ever beat, the first Fire Emblem and the Blade of Light. Funny thing is, I actually bought this a couple months before they localized the game. That kind of sucked. Wait a minute. You can kind of see me, but it's like, there's not really any details, so I'm okay with that. But anyway, yeah, that was a very stressful game. And I also have Fire Emblem Gaiden, which is pretty much Fire Emblem 2, and is the original of Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadow Valentia. I actually planned on never beating this game after going through so much hell of its prequel, but after playing Echoes again, it makes me really curious to see what the original was like. And oh, there's also these two games that are actually the most interesting. This is Megami Tensei, the first Shin Megami game in the series. I can't remember what year this came out. What year did this come out? It doesn't show the year. I think this came out in 1988. But yeah, I actually bought this. Let me open it. Yeah, here it is. I actually played this game in the beginning of this year, and after like 4 hours, I was like, nope, I am not going to endure this, because this was a couple months after I finished Fire Emblem, the first one, and that kind of made it very difficult for me to want to play Japanese RPGs. This is also Megami Tensei 2. Takes place in 2036. Yeah, the first one is more kind of like Strange Journey, where it's first-person dungeon crawler, while this one is more like... I'm actually not sure. I think it is also a bit of a dungeon crawler. Wait a second. Here it is. Very weird cartridge. Okay, so that's all the Famicom, and this video is going on a little too long, so in the next video I will go into my other video games.